G'day and welcome back. Today I have an Astor radio. It's an Aussie radio. It's a transistor radio too. I'm going to have a go at fixing a transistor radio, not something I normally do because I don't really understand how they work. Anyway, I want to try and learn a bit more about transistor sets. It's a pretty basic set. It has a volume and on-off switch there and just tuning dial there. The dial looks pretty good. It's probably a little discoloured, but it should clean up okay. And the volume knob should clean up okay as well. This front panel's a little discoloured. It's gone a cream colour. It should be pretty bright white, I think. And also there's a little bit of plastic missing from the corner there, but I do have it. The gentleman I bought this off contacted me a few days after I picked the radio up and said I found the bit that's missing, so he mailed it back to me, which was really nice of him. I'll spin it around, we'll look at the back. There's not much happening on the back. It's retained the red colour pretty well, considering the white's discoloured. The red looks pretty good. There's a couple of little holes there to mount it on a wall. Designed and made in Australia. So we'll see what's on the bottom. There's the bottom of it, and there should be a panel there, I think. There's no stickers on the bottom, but usually have the model number on the bottom. And it looks like somebody's bodged the cord together. So I'll pull it apart before I put any power on it, make sure it's okay. In order to try and find a model number, I took a photo of the radio and I used Google Lens to try and see if I could locate one. And it came up with a number of them. They're all the correct ones, but none of them had the model number, so that was no value. So then I went to Radio Museum, typed in Astor post 1960 radios, and it came up with all the photos, and there it is there. So I was able to get the model number that way. Another way was to turn around and have a look on the shelf behind me, because I did one of these about 6 years ago. And here it is here. I've taken it off the shelf. There is no sticker there. I thought there would have been one. But I can see there was one here. It probably said don't open or something, I suppose. But there's no model on it. There's a little plate there. And maybe, yeah, that'll come off. And I can make another one. I'll be able to print a plate using this as a model. Having found the model number, and it's an Astor M6-D, I went to Kevin Chant's Aussie Radio website and downloaded the schematic, which is pretty good. It's got a little bit of text there for alignment, so that'll be very handy. I'll take the radio out of the case. I think these clip on. There it goes. Yeah, remember that, little screws in the front. There's two screws here, taking that bobbin off. And the volume control should just pull off. Oh dear, that's not coming off. I'll try this little lever that I've got here. Whee, there it goes. I have to take that nut off as well. There's two screws in the bottom. There's two screws on the back as well, but this one here is broken. So it should come out now. There it is. Here it is. It's pretty simple. There's the bodgy cord that somebody's fitted. I'll just get the tape out of the way so I can see a bit better. So what they've done with the connection isn't, well, it's not life-threatening, but I will replace all that, of course. So pretty simple layout. I can see some capacitors around the place. And I wonder if I should replace those first before I put power on, in case one is shorted out and it takes out a transistor. I'm not 100% sure if that is what you would normally do or not, but I think I might do it. So I'll take this board off so I can get to the underside. I've removed the board and I will check these capacitors. The chances that they're totally shorted are pretty slim, but anyway, I'll change them anyway just before I put power on. I'm going to use my new microscope to see what the values are. There's one there. It's 100 microfarad at 25 volts. There's another one. It's 200 microfarad at 18 volts. And there's another one, and it's 10 microfarad. And I can just see there it says 16 volts on the bottom there. And there's one there. It's got 250 microfarad at 16, 250 microfarad at 16. It might be a double capacitor, I guess. And there's another one there. That's 3 microfarad at 6 volts. So I think I have all of these in stock. I have all the capacitors I need. So what I thought I'd do is take this one out, put a new one in on camera, and then do the rest off camera. So I use my solder sucker. The solder sucker wouldn't melt this one, so I've added a bit more solder. It's still not working. I've been trying to get this off with the solder sucker, but it won't work. What's happened is they've bent the lead over there, or the wire, and it just will not come through. So I'll snip that one off, and that will come out. Okay. I think I can get the end there. This is not working the way I planned. Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't know why it's got 250 microfarad twice. It's only one capacitor, so I'm not sure why they've done that. Anyway, I can replace that. Here's a new one, so negative there, says positive there, so it goes that way. So, just quick solder on there. Alright. There's the first one done. I'll turn the cameras off and do the rest. I replaced all the caps. There's new ones here, and one there, and a couple down here, one in here somewhere. There it is. The caps were very difficult to get off. I bent the leads down so tight onto the pad that I couldn't get it off with the solder sucker. I ended up using solder wick, and then I was able to snip off the end of the lead. But once they were out, I was able to solder the new ones in. I used my electronic microscope to just check the board. I found a couple of dodgy looking solders which I touched up. So it should be good for a test. Before I put power on, I forgot to say that as I was changing these capacitors, I realized that the transistors in this radio are silicon. The schematic I had was for germaniums. This is the original schematic I was using, and it's an M6-D. And when I looked at these, of course, these are germanium transistors. So I went back to Radio Museum, and there was a model after which was an M6-D, not M5-D. And a bit hard to see, but they're all AT319, 319, what's that, a 325. So I've got the schematic that's pertaining to this radio, and the one I was using originally, which I didn't actually use yet, but it's the wrong one. I've set everything up. I've got an antenna here. I've connected the speaker up again, and I'll just put some power on. It's on dim bulb, but it's not going to make any difference, but at least it's got the isolation transformer. And there it is. Oh. How about that?
Good rate.
Yeah, there it goes.
Fantastic to watch. Those who were trying to get the wicket. He bowls to Reddy. Reddy's driving him straight for 4. That's a good stroke.
Looks like the cricket's on.
Put the offers on him, but how good is he looking at? That's the way he's put my mind about Tibetan music was how varied it is. How perhaps the stereotype coming from our culture.
As its first run here at the track and trip, just being.
Oh, that's about it at the moment. Let's move the aerial around a bit. So that's the the music station that we normally get. A bit hard to get in here. I never really pick it up very well. So as I expected, it works, and I reckon it would have worked anyway. I tested most of these capacitors, and they were all shot. There's a poly one here that was okay, so that one was the only one that was any good. These were all up maybe 50% on their value, and I think it still would have worked. There was no shorts in them, so I probably overreacted by changing them all. The other option I had was to bypass the mains transformer and use my current limited power supply and just supply it with 9 volts. I'll check a few voltages, and after that I'll do an alignment. This switch, this on-off switch, is playing up when you turn it off. It's very hard to turn it back on again, so it needs lubricating or something. But I'll set up, I'll just check 1 or 2 voltages, see if we're okay. I only want to check around here, just make sure they're okay, the radio's working. So coming out of the transformer here, and you won't be able to see that, but I think it says 24.5, and it goes through a resistor. So I'll measure where this capacitor is. It says 24.5. That's that there. What do we got? 20, 25, 26. It's a little bit high. The next one past that resistor, it's supposed to be 17.2, and that's that one there. No, it's not. It's that one. And that is pretty much 17, I think. So at this point here, we're supposed to have 17, which is there, which is what we had before. Over this side of that resistor onto the base of the output transistor, that says 17, 16.8, which is here. And we've got 16.8. This point here should be 2.8. I think it's that one there. And we've got 2.8. I think I'll leave it as it is. The voltages seem to be okay. The radio is working very, very well. I will do an alignment. That's about all. What I did forget to mention was I'd pulled about 3 or 4 resistors up and checked them, and they were all perfect. So the resistors are all good as well. So I'll set up to do the alignment. I've also got to check this switch. It's very hard to turn on and off. I'm all set up to do the alignment. These are the 3 IF transformers. I have the signal generator on 455, and I've got 400 hertz going in. It's going in here. There's a little pin in there that you can put a clip on. And I'll use the scope this time, and I've just connected it onto this wire. This is the primary of the output transformer. I have the speaker on dummy load, so I'll keep it on dummy load so we don't have to listen to it. I'll start with this one. I expect these will be much the same. A little bit out of that one. Okay. Tiny bit out of that one. Yeah, tiny. That was pretty much right on. Okay. So that's it. I've set all that up for 10 minutes and that's all done. The next step, of course, is to do the RF alignment. I can't do that till this is back in the case, so perhaps we better go and look at the case. I need to glue that little bit that broke off back into its little spot there. It goes in there. It's a pretty neat fit. I'll never disguise that, but it's not so bad. It looks like it's cracked down there as well. Alright, so I'll put a bit of super glue in there. I've got it split open there a bit. I'm holding it open. So I'll just run along there. I'm putting it on the outside. And there's a reason behind that. Let's try and work it in there. That's drying off a bit. I'm going to sand the adhesive into the crack. And I did this once before on a Bakelite case and it didn't work at all. So I'll do it again. Alright, that'll do. So I'll just hold that for a minute and I'll come back. I'll try it with this as well. Oops. What's it better get this on my fingers? I'll try the same idea. The idea is that you sand the red colour into the adhesive, but I really don't think that's going to work. Looks like I'm sanding pink into the adhesive and making it worse. Anyway. Oh well, we'll see what happens after that dries. There's 2 brackets on the bottom of this front panel. I shall glue that on as well. Alright, I'll hold that. The next thing I want to do is try and brighten this white front up. You can see the back's white and the front is quite yellow or cream. This plate here with all the lettering on it is loose in this corner, and there's a little hole in the plastic there, and I wonder if it will break. Oh, something broke. It is loose. There's another hole here. I wonder. It's not going to give. I've got a bit of shellite here. I'll start off with some light stuff, see if it works. It doesn't affect the plastic, I just tried it. So if I pour that in that hole, now it may affect the coating on the front, of course, the printing. I can hear it giving, so there it goes. I'll add a bit more, see if we can keep going. Oh, it's just falling off. It's coming out there. Oh, there it goes. All right, there it is, and you can see the difference between the original and what it is now. So I'll go and wash this so it's all clean, and I'll stick it in a bag of hydrogen peroxide. I've cleaned this up, there's no more dirt on it. I've got some peroxide, this is used for hair, I got it at the pharmacy. So this is a little bit tricky because it's got posts on the back, so I can't sit it up. Well, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it actually. Anyway, we'll get there. Oops. Yeah, it's going to come through. I'm sort of brushing it on. Yeah, all right. So let me brush this on and then we'll stick it in a bag. I've coated that pretty well with the peroxide. I'll stick it in one of these sealer bags and I'll go and vacuum it down. There it is, it's all sealed up. I'll throw it out on the back lawn and we can have a look at it tonight, see if it's worked. I've been sanding this corner for a few minutes and it's looking okay. I'll just clean it off a bit and it almost disappears. But there is a small gap there, as you always get a small gap. So yeah, I can still see it there. I'll put a little super glue along there to fill the gap up. And when I polish that, it hopefully will reflect and you won't see the crack so much. That'll take a little while to dry. I'll let that dry, then I'll sand it off again. This has been drying for a while and it's quite hard now. I've got to try and sand it off without taking the plastic off. I'm not sure what's happened there. It's sort of not gone into the crack and sitting around it. Right, let me keep sanding this and I won't bore you with it. I'll come back in a second. I've sanded that back with 600 grit wet and dry or waterproof paper. It's almost gone. It's still there. I mean, you can still see it if you really look for it. So I'm just sort of polishing it out with that automotive polish that I use. This is a fairly coarse. And this is the milder polish, which should bring back a bit of a shine. I'll buff it off, we'll see if the plastic has come back to a shine, and it looks good actually. I mean, the plastic looks good, the repair, maybe not so much. Yeah, it's a bit around there. I didn't sand around here. Yeah, look, you can still see it. Would you notice it? Probably not. It just looks like a small mark. So yeah, it's not too bad, needs more work. So I'll keep going, I'll sand around the corner here and yeah, finish that off. But yeah, that looks pretty good. I removed the speaker off the front panel yesterday when I was going to clean the front panel up, and it's full of dust and it's missing the little cover over the magnet there, and I suspect it has debris inside there. I'll take it outside and I'll dust it. I'll be careful not to get any more dust inside there if I can, or any dirt, and I'll come back and I'll see if it is rubbing. I've cleaned all the dust off, and as I said, I was very careful to not get it inside there, so I brushed it away and kind of held it upside down. I can see in the center there, it actually looks pretty clear around the magnet there, but big test is to push on it, of course. Yeah, and it's got debris in there. I'll try and clear that using a method that I've seen a few times on the internet. I've put a sheet of white paper down. I've got my arbitrary waveform generator going there. I think it's about 70 Hertz I've got going in. So I'll connect the two wires to the speaker. That should introduce a low level hum, and hopefully the particles will fall out. I'll also percuss it just to help. All right, let's have a look. There's nothing there. All right, I'll try again, see if it's cleared it. No, it's exactly the same. I'll give it another go. I'll drop the frequency down a bit, see if I can get larger excursions of the tone. All right, a bit of close encounters of the third kind there. We'll have another look. Ta-da! Nothing. No, it's still there. I'll do it the way I always do it. And that's to insert a little bit of plastic off a strawberry container, or berry container at least, and just work it around. There's often a bit of rust in there, but I can see no rust in there at all. So I'll just work this around. Alright, I'm pretty sure I've gone all the way around. I'll take it out. Now, if there's enough gap in there, I can often put a bit of masking tape on the plastic backwards so that it actually, sticks to it. Any junk that's in there can stick to it. So let's try it again. Yeah, that's okay now. I'll turn it over, we'll run the frequency through it again. Alright, we'll try again. I'll have a look at the paper. I'll probably get some because I did disturb inside there. There's some garbage came out. As I said, I did disturb it, so that's probably what you'd expect. Give it another go. It's pretty good. I think it still rubs a little bit down the bottom, so I'll just keep doing that until it's ready. I've got a new felt that I've cut with my laser cutter, and I'll put that over there, and that'll stop junk getting in there the next time. The last thing that needs attention is this switch and volume control, and it's very hard to turn on the power switch part of it. So I can turn it off. It's even hard to do that. I'll take the knob off because I don't want to stress it. I'll use a screwdriver to turn it back on. Yeah, look, it's even bending that. I'll try and do it with a screwdriver closer up. Yeah, so it does work, but it's very hard to turn back on. So I assume that it needs a bit of lubrication in there. There's no real access in there. I can't get a spray in there. I'll try and lift the little plate up here and see if I can get something in there. Put a small screwdriver in there to sort of bend it open a bit. I'll see if I can get some spray in there. I'll try a bit of Servicol in there. Let's see if that's done anything. I think that's easier. I'll put the knob on and see if I can turn it. It's better. I'll put a bit of fader in here as well. I'll spray the shaft with a bit of Servisol. It does have a lubricant in it. That's better. That's much better. Okay, I'll just push these clips down again. There we go. Alright, that's done. This cord still needs to be replaced. I've got another one here, so I'll put that on. Apart from the RF alignment, the board's done. So I'll go and get the case, we'll put it all back together. Here's the front panel after it's been in the hydrogen peroxide for a couple of days. I've cleaned it off. I actually think it goes a bit whiter even after it's taken out of the peroxide, but look, it looks pretty good. It's if you didn't see the original white, it's good. It looks fantastic. So if you compare it to what it looked like originally, it's much better. I need to put that black panel back on here. I used a very mild abrasive polish to clean off the little spots that were on this front panel. It looks much better, but it's not perfect. To glue it back on, I'll use a spray contact adhesive. I'll only spray one side of it, but that will stick down no problems at all. While that adhesive dries, I'll polish this plastic indicator up. It is discoloured. It'll look better. It doesn't look too bad. I'm going to use some Brasso on it. That'll take off the majority of the scratching. Well, it's not particularly scratched, but it's got a sort of a fine scratch over it, if that makes any sense. Well, that looks better already. I'll probably only spend about a minute polishing this up. It looks better. It's kind of a bit cloudy now. So I'll finish it off with some of this Meguiar's Plastex. That should take off the fine scratches that the Brasso's put on it. This is the Meguiar's Plastex. I'll do the back as well. That's polished up pretty nicely, so I'll just give it a polish with a clean bit of cloth. Alright, that's probably enough polishing. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. As I say, it's kind of yellow and it shows there. It would have been crystal clear when they made it, but that'll do. All the parts are cleaned, ready to put back together. First, I'll refit the speaker. And the chassis. Put the nut back on the volume control. Refit the tuning dial boss. And refit the dial with the 3 retaining screws. The volume control. And finally, the speaker wires. Right, with all that assembled, I can do the RF alignment. This radio has 4 points for adjustment on the RF. The first one is the oscillator paddock coil down the bottom here, so we adjust that at 600. On the top up here on the tuning capacitor, that's the oscillator trimmer, so we'll do that at 1400. The ferrite rod and the antenna coil form the antenna padder. There's a little washer here around the ferrite antenna, and you can adjust that. That's done at 600 kilocycles. There's an antenna trimmer here, it's got a little screw on the end there. You adjust that at the 1400. The first thing I have to do is adjust this dial. I haven't done those screws up tight, so it will still rotate. And I'll just make that in line or level with that line there. And that should be about 0. I'll come around here and ZL there, if you can see it, is 600. I've got 600 on the generator there, so I'll turn the radio on. And we're not quite on it. I'll just find it. There it is there. So it's only a little bit out. I'll adjust the oscillator coil. We'll see if we can get it back where it should be. There it is. Alright, I'll just move the dial. Alright, so that's right on ZL now. It's covering it. I'll go up to 3XY there, and that's 1422. So I'll center it on there. I'll change the generator to, well, it'll be 1500. Make it 1422. Let's see where it is. No, it's way over there. I'm not sure about that. I might have to add some windings to that, I think. In order to get the oscillator range to stretch a bit, I need more capacitors on here. I can add a bit more wire to these things. These capacitors, when you get them, are fully wound, and then you wind some wire off to get the capacitance you need. I'm going to remove that, and I'll wind some more wire on it. Then I can just wind it off until I get it trimmed up correctly. Here's a little trimmer here. I've cut off the excess wire that was just sort of hanging out the top. I've soldered a bit of wire, and this is just one of the strands out of a multi-strand piece of wire, or length of wire. I've put some double-sided tape around there. So just wind it on. It should stick to the tape with any luck. Alright, that'll do. Alright, I'll put that back in the radio, see if that'll work. I've refitted the little trimmer there. I've got the signal generator on 600. I'll just check to make sure that hasn't moved. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll put it back on 3XY up there. And I'll put this on 7, I think it was there, 1422. It's right on it. Okay, hang on. Let's trim around a bit. Wow, that is... Okay, well, I don't have to do anything. I'll trim that excess bit there. Oops. I'll put a bit of tape over that to make sure it doesn't move. And I need to retrim the antenna. Beautiful. Well, that's it. It's all done. That's worked well, just adding a bit more. So the capacitance in the circuit has altered since they manufactured this, so that's why I had to compensate here. You could probably go through and change some components somewhere in the circuit and get it back to what it used to be. But for me, that's an easy fix. This is ready to go back in the case. The adjustment slug in the oscillator trimmer was loose, so I've put a little bit of wax on there to hold it. I also put a bit of wax on this trimmer and this trimmer as well. I'll feed the cord through the hole in the bottom of the case, and then it can go over the top here. Put some screws in. This was missing its cover plate, so I designed a new one. I've printed it out, but I only had orange. Ordered some red, so that'll come in the next day or two, and I'll fit that on. But that'll work all right. I need to fit the little decorative cover on that. There we go. I did remember to tighten those screws up. Well, there it is, all done. And this fascia, or this white area here, has come up really nice. You really wouldn't know that it had faded off and been brought back. So I'm very happy with that. I was disappointed initially, but it looks really good. The little repair I did up here is not fantastic. You can still see it. It's not noticeable, but you can see it if you look for it. But it really needs me to pick up my game on that sort of thing. I'll just run through the stations quickly. We'll see how well it works. I've connected my little loop antenna here. That's connected outside to the mini whip. I'll turn it on. I've just got the minimum amount of lighting going. There'll still be some background noise from the computer and the cameras. Like that. That's all from the computer and the cameras.
For the first time, it's a chance for them to add some silverware to their recent history. Great to have your company on Grandstand on ABC Sport for the final.
So that's the ABC. That's a very strong station. They do a lot of sport in the when the sport's on. So they do the cricket. That's KQ, which was an oldie station, and they took it over by SEN Sports. So we get another sports station, which is, well, doesn't suit me.
Hear how that changed the American auto industry a little later in the episode. But first, what?
That's Radio Australia.
And why?
There's a station in here. There's two in here that I struggle to get. Bit of lightning around too.
Went through all the classics from the Stone Age Romeos, from Mars Needs Guitars, all the songs you'd expect. Beautiful. How many times?
That's 4BC, which is up here, but they swapped with 4BH. And 4BH used to be up here, but it moved down here. Anyway, so it's 4BC now.
This country's produced.
So I don't get that very often.
US President-elect Donald Trump has described a meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister.
That's ABC News. That just plays 24-hour news. I very rarely get that.
On the first today at Newcastle. Let's get across to Nick now and get a look at the board for race number.
So that's another, well, that's the racing station. That's a very powerful transmitter as well. 4BC oldies coming up there, which is now 4BH. John Paul Young. Now there's another one here.
Making Christ known wherever we go. Amen.
Yeah, I can just barely get that. I don't get that very often at all. So it works all right. Seems to be, you know, pretty...
Really, really exciting.
Seems to be pretty sensitive, so not bad for a cheap little plastic radio. This restoration was not about the radio. It was about me getting some hours up on transistor radios. This one worked pretty much out of the box, so I didn't really learn a lot. I did a lot more voltage checks than what I showed on the video. You know, I picked up a few pointers and worked out how transistors worked a little bit better. The radio looks pretty good. It's quite a nice looking little radio. I'll stick it up on the shelf next to the other one, I think, and maybe I'll start a collection of different coloured radios. Thanks to everybody that supported me in 2024. It's been amazing. I hope you all have a great Christmas with friends and family and have a happy and wonderful new year. And I'll see you all in 2025 after the holiday period. I hope you enjoyed following along, and I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.